Thank you, Steve, both for that terrific introduction and also for efficiently actually giving my speech, because you've said many of the things that I'm about to say, and I appreciate that. Thanks to you, thanks to New America for hosting this event. I'd like to recognize, Steve, you and New America for your leadership on communications issues and spectrum issues, in particular the work of Michael Calabrese, who I see on your Wireless Future program, Sasha Meinrath, on the Open Technology Initiative. New America has filed extensive and specific comments on our National Broadband Plan. Everyone here should know that we have taken them to heart. And if you have a problem with the substance of my remarks or the plan, you should take it up with Steve Cole and not me. Also, I see many of you in this room who have been ringing the bell on broadband for a very long time. We and the country benefit from your work a great deal, and I expect we'll see the results of that work in the National Broadband Plan and in the months ahead as we tackle this important challenge for the country. As Steve indicated, and as many of you know, as part of the Recovery Act, Congress and the President charged the FCC with developing a strategy to bring high-speed internet and its benefits to all Americans. Less than a month from now, we'll deliver the National Broadband Plan to Congress. In the past, I've likened the development of this plan to running a marathon at a sprinter's pace. But as I was watching my required 3 hours of NBC last night, I realized that a more apt sports metaphor for the National Broadband Plan would be the Winter Olympics. Let me explain. First, the National Broadband Plan will be the culmination of a tremendous amount of hard work and effort. For months, a dedicated team has been working around the clock, a team that includes engineers, economists, and entrepreneurs, lawyers, academics, analysts, consumer advocates, some of the very best public servants in the business, drawing from every bureau and office at the FCC. They have been driven by the imperative of developing a meaningful plan for U.S. global leadership in broadband to create jobs and spur economic growth, to unleash new waves of innovation and investment, and to improve education, healthcare, energy efficiency, public safety, and the vibrancy of our democracy. Hats off to this world-class team. The second way that the National Broadband Plan is like the Olympics, the ultimate goal is to earn a gold medal for the United States. The challenge is we're lagging behind when it comes to broadband. Multiple studies have the U.S. ranked outside the top 10 when it comes to broadband penetration and speed. While some people take exception with those studies, few would suggest, and I don't think anyone can, that we're leading the world in broadband or even as close as we should be. And I can tell you from speaking to my counterparts in other countries, the rest of the world is not sitting around waiting for us to catch up. Consider a study that Intel CEO Paul Otellini described yesterday. The study ranked the U.S. 6th in the world in innovative competitiveness and 40th out of the 40 countries ranked in the rate of change of innovative capacity. The first of those rankings is enough of a concern. That last place statistic is the canary in the coal mine. The costs of our failure to lead, the costs of our failure to seize the moment are high. As IBM CEO Sam Palmisano recently put it, and I quote, "Without pervasive broadband, our country will not be prepared for a new world that is increasingly built on the fusion of the physical and the digital. For U.S. businesses to lead across the globe and for innovation to flourish at home, we need to invest in the infrastructure of the future, broadband. We need robust and open broadband flourishing with applications and services that we can only begin to imagine. We have extraordinary capacity in the U.S. to build the best computers, the best chips, the best applications and services in the world, but we are at risk of wasting that asset if we don't have great broadband infrastructure, wired and wireless. It would be like having the technology for great electric cars, but terrible roads. When it comes to mobile broadband, the subject that I want to focus on today, our goal is clear: to benefit all Americans and promote our global competitiveness. the U.S. must have the fastest, most robust, and most extensive mobile broadband networks and the most innovative mobile broadband marketplace in the world. This will be a core goal of the National Broadband Plan. To meet that goal, our plan is ambitious but straightforward. Accelerate the broad deployment of mobile broadband by moving to recover and reallocate spectrum. Update our 20th century spectrum policies to reflect 21st century technologies and opportunities. Remove barriers to broadband build-out. Lower the cost of deployment and promote competition. No area of the broadband ecosystem holds more promise for transformational innovation than mobile. Breakthrough new devices that put the power of a PC in your pocket, combined with billions in network investment, have liberated broadband from the desktop and made it possible to imagine a world where the internet is available to anyone, anywhere, anytime. And some of America's greatest innovators have clearly been working overtime to seize the opportunity, as the iPad and the Kindle attest. While mobile broadband is still in the preliminaries, to stick with the Olympics theme, we've seen enough to say some things definitively. This is a sector that can fundamentally transform our society and our economy. Mobile broadband can be about many things. Mobile broadband can be about job creation and economic growth. Jobs in the mobile network economy, jobs building out and managing extensive mobile broadband networks, and jobs in the mobile apps economy. According to Gartner, $4.2 billion in mobile applications were sold last year, up from essentially zero just a couple of years ago. The number of apps available, mobile apps available, has now crossed 150,000. Studies show that increases in mobile broadband adoption translate into increases in economic growth and job creation. Mobile broadband can be about education. Last week, a New York Times article described an Arizona school district that installed Wi-Fi on one of its school buses. The bus was instantly transformed into a rolling study hall. And if anyone ever doubts the power of mobile broadband, tell them this. The driver says that high school bus is now quiet. Mobile broadband can be about healthcare. Mobile medicine takes remote monitoring to a new level. A patient's heart rhythm can be monitored continuously, regardless of her whereabouts. Diabetics can receive continuous, flexible insulin delivery through real-time glucose monitoring sensors that transmit data to wearable insulin pumps. Mobile broadband can be about energy. With mobile broadband, consumers and businesses can utilize smart grid-enabled information devices. A whole new world of energy apps can adjust lights, heating, and cooling from a smartphone or a netbook, saving electricity, saving our environment, and saving money to boot. Mobile broadband can be about public safety. With mobile broadband, emergency medical technicians, and I say this as a former EMT, can beam images of a patient wirelessly from the road so that emergency room doctors can review them while the patient is in transit. First responders can also access a patient's medical records almost instantaneously when they arrive on the scene. As someone who spent some time on an ambulance in some of the tougher parts of Manhattan, I can tell you that mobile broadband will be a huge opportunity for public safety. Mobile broadband can be about 21st century government and enhanced civic engagement. During the recent snowstorm, Howard County, Maryland equipped all 120 of its snowplowers with GPS receivers. A website displayed the truck's positions and the status of county streets, and county residents could see which streets had been plowed, salted, or sanded. Families who lost power used their smartphones as a lifeline, coordinating cleanup efforts. And we're all seeing the ways in which mobile services like Twitter can enhance participation in public life. And of course, that's just the beginning. And so these early days of mobile broadband demonstrate tremendous opportunities for our country. But they also reveal serious challenges to America's hopes for global leadership in mobile. For starters, although the potential of mobile broadband is limitless, its oxygen supply is not. Spectrum, our airwaves, really is the oxygen of mobile broadband service. Without sufficient spectrum, we will starve mobile broadband of the nourishment it needs to thrive as a platform for innovation, job creation, and economic growth. And the fact is, America is facing a looming spectrum crunch. As part of our broadband process, the FCC received a letter from over 100 companies, including Amazon, Apple, AT&T, Cisco, Dell, Intel, Microsoft, Motorola, Verizon, entities representing billions of investment and millions of American jobs. These companies were united in telling the FCC, quote, "Without more spectrum, America's global leadership in innovation and technology is threatened." Let's look at some numbers. Mobile data usage is not just growing, it's exploding. AT&T reports that its mobile data traffic is up 5,000% over the past 3 years. It's not surprising when you consider that a typical smartphone generates 30 times the traffic of a traditional data-enabled phone, and a netbook generates 450 times more traffic. According to Cisco, North American wireless networks carried 17 petabytes per month in 2009. By 2014, they're projected to carry 740 petabytes per month. Now, even if you think a petabyte is something that sends you to the emergency room, you know that that's a game-changing trajectory. There is spectrum coming to market. Counting 2008's 700 megahertz auction, the FCC in recent years has authorized a threefold increase in commercial spectrum for mobile broadband. But that increase will not allow us to keep pace with an estimated 30-fold increase in traffic. While the spectrum crunch is a serious obstacle threatening the growth of mobile broadband, it is not the only one. Wireless providers also face red tape and needless barriers, which slow deployment and increase the cost of investment. The cost of obtaining permits and leasing pole attachments and rights-of-way can amount to 20% of fiber deployment, which is necessary for wireless networks as well as wired networks. With our tower siting shot clock order in November, the Commission already begun to take action to cut red tape, lower the cost of investment, and accelerate network deployments, but more needs to be done. Another serious problem is that the mobile broadband revolution is not reaching all Americans. Many homes are technically passed by mobile broadband networks in some of the surveys and studies that you see, but still cannot get a clear signal inside their home. And a mobile divide is an increasingly important part of the digital divide. In Alaska, for example, 23% of its population doesn't have access to 3G mobile broadband. In West Virginia, at least 29% of its population lacks coverage. A final major issue. We're still way behind on communications interoperability for first responders, years after a call to action was issued by the 9/11 Commission. And the situation is even worse when it comes to mobile broadband for first responders. While a portion of the 700 megahertz spectrum has been allocated for public safety broadband use, our country still needs to build out that network. With our National Broadband Plan, the Commission will lay out its most dramatic actions yet to position America as a global leader in mobile broadband innovation. What are we going to do? The Broadband Plan will represent the first step in what my colleague FCC Commissioner Meredith Baker says, and which she has urged us to pursue, quote, an ongoing strategic planning process on spectrum policy to ensure that the agency's stewardship of the public's airwaves is smart, future-oriented, and serves as an ongoing engine of innovation and investment, unquote. First, we're going to announce a game plan to unleash more spectrum for mobile broadband. The National Broadband Plan will set a goal of freeing up 500 megahertz of spectrum over the next decade. We will work with the NTIA to do so. And one of the best ways for us to achieve the right balance in the supply and demand of spectrum is to establish market-based mechanisms that enable spectrum intended for the commercial marketplace to flow to the uses the market values most. The Broadband Plan will recommend one such mechanism. It will propose a mobile future auction, an auction permitting existing spectrum licensees, such as television broadcasters and spectrum-starved markets, to voluntarily relinquish spectrum in exchange for a share of auction proceeds, and allow spectrum sharing and other spectrum efficiency measures. Now, I've mentioned broadcast spectrum, so let me be clear, the recommendation is for a voluntary program. While overwhelmingly, roughly 90% of Americans receive their broadcast TV programming in most major markets through cable wires or satellite signals, there are still millions of Americans who receive TV through over-the-air antenna TV. Broadcasters would be able under this plan to continue to serve their communities with free over-the-air local news, information, and entertainment, and they would be able to experiment with mobile TV. But the mobile future auction would allow broadcasters to elect to participate in a mechanism that could save costs for broadcasters while also being a major part of the solution to one of our country's most significant challenges. Why look at broadcast spectrum as a major part of our spectrum strategic planning? First, a broad range of analysts, companies, trade associations participating in our broadband proceeding agree that a clear candidate for allocation is spectrum in the broadcast TV bands. They point to a massive amount of unlocked value in that spectrum, which has characteristics that make it particularly suitable for mobile broadband. One study suggests that as much as $50 billion in value could be unlocked if we adopted policies to convert some of the broadcast spectrum to mobile broadband. This, of course, suggests that there are inefficiencies in the current allocation and suggests the beginning of the opportunities of a smart strategic planning exercise when it comes to the spectrum and serving the public interest. A second reason is that the highly valuable spectrum currently allocated for broadcast television is not being used efficiently. Indeed, much is not being used at all. About 300 megahertz of spectrum has been set aside for broadcast TV. In markets with less than 1 million people, only 36 megahertz are typically used for broadcasting. In cities with more than 1 million people, on average, about 100 megahertz is used. Even in our largest cities, at most, only about 150 megahertz out of 300 megahertz are used. This is true even after the recent reallocation for digital television, which freed up some spectrum for mobile broadband. New technologies allow, indeed they require, new strategic planning to ensure the most efficient use of spectrum, a vital public resource, especially given our broadband needs. Because of the billions of dollars of unlocked value in broadcast spectrum, and because of the current inefficient spectrum allocation, the Mobile Future Auction is a win-win proposal. For broadcasters, who win more flexibility to pursue business models to serve their local communities, and for the public, which wins more innovation in mobile broadband services, continued free over-the-air television, and the benefits of the proceeds of new and substantial auction revenues. One thing is clear. It typically takes quite some time, many years, from the beginning to end of a commission's strategic spectrum reallocation process, but the clock is ticking on our country's mobile broadband leadership opportunity and our global competitiveness challenge, and we have to get started. Our plan for mobile broadband will also recommend applying a more flexible approach to other frequency bands, where our rules, technical rules, service rules may be holding back the broadband potential of large swaths of spectrum. We need to bring our spectrum policies into the 21st century. The plan proposes resolving long-standing debates about how to maximize the value of spectrum in bands such as the mobile satellite service or wireless communication service by giving licensees the option of new flexibility to put the spectrum toward mobile broadband use, or the option of voluntarily transferring the license to someone who will. Now, vital elements of the Commission's charter are to ensure that, in exercising our responsibilities with respect to spectrum, we promote competition and ensure that spectrum use is in the public interest. And of course, all spectrum policy decisions will be made with those core values in mind. In addition, our National Broadband Plan will encourage innovative ways of using spectrum, including what some call opportunistic uses, to encourage the development of new technologies and new spectrum policy models. Unlicensed spectrum, for example, has been a proven testbed for emerging competition, injecting new investment and innovation into the marketplace, and spawning new services and devices from Bluetooth to Wi-Fi. The market for Wi-Fi equipment alone is about $4 billion a year, and analysts project the market for Wi-Fi-enabled health products will reach $5 billion in 2014. This is on what people used to call the junk band, until the FCC released it for unlicensed use, and innovators got to work. In addition, new ideas such as databases that dynamically enable or revoke access to spectrum in particular times and places promise to change the way we think about spectrum. For example, entrepreneurs could create new types of devices and ad hoc networks, enabling new innovative uses of spectrum. And, spurred by the smart persistence of my colleague Commissioner Michael Copps, the broadband plan will include a recommendation that we invest a sufficient amount in R&D to ensure that the science underpinning spectrum use continues to advance. To close the adoption gap, our broadband plan would propose the creation of a mobility fund as part of broader reforms of the Universal Service Fund. Without increasing the overall size of the fund, the plan will seek to provide one-time support for deployment of infrastructure enabling robust mobile broadband networks to bring all states to a minimum level of mobile availability. Bringing all states up to a national standard will help Americans in unserved areas participate in the mobile revolution. Finally, and critically, to improve mobile communications for our first responders, we will develop the 700 megahertz public safety broadband network to achieve long overdue interoperability. I'll have more to say on public safety tomorrow, but let me mention now that we'll have a comprehensive public safety strategy in the National Broadband Plan. At a high level, our goals will be achieved through public-private partnerships between public safety and 700 megahertz commercial service providers, including but not limited to a commercial licensee of the D block. The plan will also recommend the establishment and funding of an emergency response interoperability center within the FCC to develop common technical standards for interoperability on the public safety broadband network from the start, and to update these standards periodically as broadband technology evolves. These are all programs in an ambitious plan to deliver the benefits of broadband service, both wireless and wired, to all Americans, and to invest in and build a world-leading broadband infrastructure in the U.S. There is an enormous amount of work to be done. The National Broadband Plan will chart a clear path forward, and if we do not seize the moment, I fear for the opportunity we will have lost. Let me close with one last comparison to the Olympics. The Olympics are unique in sport because they only come every 4 years. When you get your chance, you better make it count, because you don't know when or if you'll get another shot. With this plan, we have a special opportunity to lay a foundation for American leadership in the 21st century. If we get it right, broadband will be an enduring engine for creating jobs and growing our economy, for spreading knowledge and enhancing civic engagement, for advancing a healthier, sustainable way of life. This is our moment. Let's seize it. Thank you. Question?
So I think we have time for about one, maybe two questions if they're asked pithily, so please do. And I would encourage, if you've never had an opportunity to ask a question of the chairman or the FCC, now's your chance. So I'd ask if for those that are the usual suspects, give a chance for folks that haven't had a chance to raise their hands to do so. And if you haven't, please do raise your hands. I got one back there, yes. Back here, yes, go ahead. Where's microphone's coming to you.
So you announced a 100 squared initiative recently. So the mobile broadband will be a part of this initiative. So that means so mobile broadband, you are expecting the mobile broadband will be around 100 meg capacity on 2020.
Well, we'll be announcing in the broadband plan a number of key national goals for the United States. The goal of the 100 Squared initiative is to make sure that the U.S. in 2020 has the largest market in the world for broadband, so that this is the place where the world's best innovators, best companies start, invent, create jobs, build the future. We'll also have goals around mobile, chiefly that we lead the world in robust, extensive, fastest mobile broadband networks, so that a mobile broadband platform can serve its potential as a vital source for innovation, companies, jobs. People get confused sometimes when it comes to broadband. I know when we started this process, a lot of the people I spoke with at the beginning thought that broadband meant wired and wired only. And one of the things that we'll be saying clearly in the plan is that wired broadband is essential, and so is wireless broadband. One other point. We don't know. No one in this room knows exactly what technology will bring, what our innovators will bring with respect to mobile technology over the last 10 years. We have some real hopes for the next generation of mobile technology and the level of speeds that they can deliver. What we want to do is make sure that we have a mobile infrastructure that leads the world, that's the fastest in the world, that's the most innovative world, as part of an overall broadband ecosystem that is also world-class, world-leading, universal, and that meets the moment for global competitiveness and innovation.
Thank you.
We'll take one more right up front here. Just wait for the
Thank you
microphone.
joining us.
Wait for the microphone since this is being webcast.
Oh, I'm sure I speak for many people here. My concern is in keeping with your theme. You discussed spectrum being the oxygen for mobile broadband. I'm concerned about the circulatory system. How do we get fiber to all these places to backhaul this stuff, and can we build it fast enough?
It's a critical challenge, and we will be addressing in the plan a series of initiatives to accelerate the deployment of fiber as far and as deep in the network as possible. I talked a little bit about them today. Steps to address red tape that increases the cost of investment, slows it down. The tower siting order that we adopted a couple of months ago is a good example of the kind of thing that we'll do more of, starting with the National Broadband Plan. You know, there are companies that want to build out wireless networks. They want to put up towers. They have certain rights to challenge denials of putting up towers. And the whole system was getting held up because in some communities there wouldn't be decisions. And so in our order, we set a deadline, a shot clock for decisions. There are other things that we can do involving rights of way, including federal rights of way, that can lower the cost of deploying fiber. And that's something we'll address in the plan. I agree that it's important.
Thank you very much. We're going to transition now to the respondents. We have a very illustrious panel of folks, so I'd invite them to come up now. And don't worry, you'll have a lot of time to ask questions of folks and get some research and analysis on today's speech. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks very much.